At 9,000 meters above the Earth, Flight 907 moved like a silver arrow through the cold morning sky. The sun painted the clouds in bright gold, and inside the aircraft, everything felt calm and controlled. Passengers were settling into their seats. The cabin crew was preparing for the last service before descent, and children were watching cartoons on their screens. It was supposed to be a normal flight, nothing unusual, nothing dangerous. 13-year-old Zain Arif sat in seat 14A, staring out the window with his headphones on. His mother, tired from travel, slept beside him. Zain wasn't like other kids. While most children his age spent hours on video games or social media, Zain spent his time flying, not real aircraft, but hyper-realistic flight simulators. He trained online with real pilots, ex-military instructors, and flight engineers who appreciated his skill. They had even given him a call sign normally reserved for serious aviators: Falcon-Kid. No one on Flight 907 knew this. To them, Zain was just a quiet kid with messy hair and a serious face. Inside the cockpit, the captain and first officer chatted casually. The weather was clear, the wind was light, and the aircraft systems showed green across the board. Then it happened. A sharp warning beep cut through the cockpit, loud enough to freeze both pilots. Within seconds, the engine indicators began to blink yellow, then red. The autopilot disconnected with a metallic click. The entire plane shuddered violently. Passengers felt it immediately. Drinks spilled. Overhead lights flickered and a low, unsettling whine echoed from the wings. Inside the cockpit, chaos erupted. Engine 1 is losing thrust. Engine 2. Dropping 2! What? They're both spooling down. The captain pulled levers, rebooted systems, and tried to regain control, but the screens were dying one by one like candles in a storm. The aircraft began to fall, not straight down, but in a slow, sickening glide. Oxygen masks dropped throughout the cabin with a loud snap. People screamed. Babies cried. Panic spread like fire. Zain ripped off his headphones, his eyes widening. He had heard this kind of sound before, not in real life, but in high-level emergency simulations. His mother grabbed his arm. "Beta, sit!" "What's happening?" Zain didn't answer. He was staring forward, breathing fast, trying to understand the rhythm of the aircraft's vibrations. He whispered to himself, "Dual-engine flame-out. But at this altitude, that's impossible." But the impossible was happening. A flight attendant stumbled down the aisle, shouting directions to the terrified passengers. The captain himself appeared seconds later, pale, sweating, and clearly shaken. "We need help. We need someone who knows aviation systems," he said breathlessly to the crew. Zain stood up. The captain looked at him in confusion. "Son, sit down. This isn't a game." Zain swallowed hard. "I know what's happening. I've flown this model in emergency simulations hundreds of times. I trained with real pilots online." The captain was about to dismiss him when the plane pitched downward sharply. He lost his balance and grabbed a seat. He stared at Zain again, really stared. Something in the boy's eyes wasn't childish fear. It was focus, precision, almost pilot-like discipline. You said you trained with pilots," the captain said, voice shaking. "I have a call sign," Zain answered quietly. "Falcon-Kid." The captain froze. He knew that name. Several commercial pilots had spoken online about a mysterious kid with impossible simulator skills, a kid who mastered failure procedures even senior pilots struggled with. "Come with me," the captain finally said. Passengers watched in disbelief as a child walked toward the cockpit during a life-or-death emergency. Murmurs rose. "Is that kid helping? Are they crazy? Ya Allah, what is happening?" Inside the cockpit, warning lights flashed red like a Christmas tree on fire. Everything smelled of hot plastic. The radio sputtered. Screens flickered. Zain sat in the observer's seat behind the pilots and immediately scanned the instruments. "Both engines dead. Battery backup failing. Electrical bleed system offline," he said calmly. The captain nodded nervously. "Exactly, and we can't restart anything." Zain leaned over slightly. "Captain, can I speak to ATC?" The captain hesitated, then handed him the emergency mic. The radio crackled to life, but the sound was faint. Zion clicked the switch and spoke clearly. "This is Flight 907. We've lost both engines. Glide-only mode. This is Falcon-Kid speaking." There was silence. Then, Falcon-Kid? Confirm identity." Zane replied, "Confirmed. Request military escort. We're losing altitude fast." The captain stared at the boy in disbelief. The first officer whispered, "Who is this kid?" Thousands of meters away, in the sky above, 2 F-22 Raptor fighter jets were already scrambling on orders of the Air Defense Network. They had detected the falling plane and were rushing to intercept. Minutes later, long shadows slid across the clouds beside Flight 907. Passengers gasped. 2 F-22s appeared, sleek and powerful, flying tight formation. Inside the lead F-22, the pilot, call sign Viper 1, opened the radio channel. "Flight 907, this is Viper 1. State status." The captain tried responding, but the transmission glitched. The radio system was failing like everything else. Zane grabbed the mic again. "Viper 1, this is Falcon-Kid. Aircraft in full engine-out emergency. Need guidance." The reply came instantly. Falcon-Kid? No way. How old are you, kid?" 13. "But I know this aircraft. Please, we don't have time." The F-22 pilot paused. Then he spoke with sudden determination. "Falcon-Kid, we've flown together in the simulators, haven't we?" "Yes," Zane said. "You were the one who taught me emergency gliding techniques." Viper 1 laughed softly in. "Unbelievable. All right, kid, I'm with you." Both Raptors tightened formation around the falling passenger jet. "Falcon-Kid," Viper 1 said, "we're going to guide you down." Inside the cockpit, Zane sat straighter, his small hands trembling but determined. He wasn't a real pilot. He wasn't even old enough to drive a car. But right now, he was the only chance 186 people had. And the F-22 pilots trusted him. "Okay," Zane whispered, gripping the armrests. "Let's save this plane." The passenger jet descended silently through the clouds, gliding without the power of its engines. For a machine built to roar through the sky, silence was the most terrifying sound. Every second the aircraft lost altitude, and every second the fear inside the cabin grew thicker. But inside the cockpit, a 13-year-old kid sat with a fighter pilot's focus. Zayn, Falcon-Kid, a child in age but not in skill. The F-22 Raptors flew beside the damaged aircraft, their dark gray frames slicing through the cold wind. Their presence alone brought a strange sense of comfort. Passengers who could see the fighter jets pressed their hands to the windows, whispering prayers and hope. In the cockpit, the captain wiped sweat from his forehead. "Falcon-Kid, what do you need?" he asked, voice shaky. Zane swallowed hard. His throat felt dry, but his mind worked like a machine. He pointed at the only remaining screen, a dim, flickering altitude indicator. "Captain, I need full manual control. The autopilot is fighting the glide angle." The captain hesitated only a second. Then he nodded and flipped the switch. The control column loosened. Zayn placed his fingers over it. His small hands looked out of place on the massive controls. But his movements were precise. "Okay," he whispered. "Pitch 3 degrees nose up." "Stabilize." The jet shuddered but obeyed. The first officer stared. "Where did you learn this?" Zion didn't take his eyes off the screen. "Viper 1 taught me, and dozens of other pilots online." The radio sparked alive. "Falcon-Kid, this is Viper 1. You're doing good. Keep that pitch. We're guiding you toward Vulcan Air Base. It's the closest runway long enough for a dead glide landing." Zion nodded. "Copy, Viper 1. He was calm, focused, but inside his chest, his heart hammered like a drum. The descent becomes critical. At 5,000 meters, the situation worsened. A violent turbulence wave shook the jet. Passengers screamed as luggage crashed from overhead bins. The cockpit alarms went berserk. The captain grabbed the window frame. "Wind shear!" Zion tightened his grip. Nose down 2 degrees. Speed increasing. "Pull up now!" He executed the maneuver so cleanly, the captain couldn't believe it. "Kid, you fly like you've been doing this for years." The radio crackled. "Falcon-Kid," Viper 1 said, "your glide ratio is dropping. If you don't correct it, you'll fall short of the base." Zion stared at the altitude reading, 4,800 meters. "We need more lift," he said quickly. Captain, extend slats manually. The captain hesitated. At this speed. Trust me. The captain obeyed. The jet responded with a gentle upward rise. The F-22s adjusted their positions. Viper 1's voice came through again. Nice work, kid. You just gave us another 8 miles. The captain leaned closer to Zane. How do you know all this? Zane kept flying. I've done this scenario before, he said softly. Engine failure. Full glide. The captain blinked. Me? Zane nodded but didn't explain. The truth was complicated. In one of the simulator servers, several real pilots used anonymized profiles, and the captain had been one of them. He just didn't know the kid on the server was actually a real kid. The final approach begins. At 3,000 meters, the ground finally became visible through the clouds. Green fields, scattered buildings, and far ahead, a long strip of grey, Falcon Air Base, runway 14. The controller came on the radio. Flight 907, you are cleared for emergency landing. Fire trucks and medics are ready. Zane adjusted the trim carefully. Viper 1, I need the glide path. The F-22 began descending in front of the jet. Follow my tail, kid. Keep your nose right on me. Zane held the controls with trembling hands. He felt the aircraft sinking faster. Captain, Zane said, prepare for a no-flare landing. We don't have enough speed for a clean flare. The captain swallowed. Understood. The first officer read out the altitude. 2,000 meters. 1,800. The jet shook again, the final turbulence layer. Passengers held hands, cried, whispered prayers. A few shouted the kid's name, even though they didn't know who he was. In the cockpit, Zane spoke. A gear down. The captain pulled the lever. The landing gear dropped with a loud mechanical groan. Zane straightened the descent line. Steady, steady. The F-22 pilot's voice was tense now. You're coming in a little low, kid. Raise the nose half a degree. Zane obeyed instantly. Good. Now don't touch anything else. Just glide. The landing. A child saves 186 lives. At 100 meters above the runway, the passengers could see fire trucks racing beside the landing strip. The engines were dead. The plane hissed quietly through the air like a giant glider. Zane whispered to the aircraft, "Come on, please. Just a little more." The wheels hit the runway. One hard bounce. The jet skidded sideways. Sparks shot from the landing gear. The cabin erupted in screams. The captain reached for the controls, but Zane shouted, "No, let it roll, don't fight it." The plane stabilized on its own, slowing down until finally, after 11 minutes of silent gliding, the aircraft rolled to a complete stop. For 3 long seconds, no one moved. No one breathed. Then the cockpit erupted. The captain ripped off his headset, tears forming in his eyes. "You saved us," he whispered. The first officer slapped the seat in disbelief. "You're a legend, kid!" The radio cracked with emotion. "Falcon-Kid," Viper 1 said. "You just did the impossible." The aftermath, a new legend. Emergency crews surrounded the jet while the passengers evacuated. Many kissed the ground. Some hugged each other. Some cried uncontrollably. Zane stepped out into the sunlight, trembling now that the danger was over. His mother rushed to him, tears pouring down her cheeks.